Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maggie McKenna. I'm the director of the St. Lawrence County Arts Council, and I want to thank you for joining us today for the 21st episode of Art for Art's Sake. We're here with Chris Waller, and he's a good friend of mine, and I'm really excited to see what he's been working on because I don't know that I know his art all that well. So other than the tattoos that my husband has on his leg, haha, he'll kill me for saying that. Anyway, I want to let you all know that Art for Art's Sake is a new virtual program from the St. Lawrence County Arts Council. As all our programming is on hold, we're trying something new, we're trying something different. So we're really excited to be able to connect our greater virtual community with local artists. So I really hope that you'll consider supporting this program on an ongoing basis, like Frazer Computing did. Frazer DMS, dealer management software in Canton, actually is supporting this whole entire week of programming, including today's program. So I want to thank Mike and everybody at Frazer for your support of local arts. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that support. If you're interested in supporting this program on an ongoing basis, reach out to me directly. You can email me at director@slcartscouncil.org, or you can just go online and make a donation today at slcartscouncil.org/give. Also, if you're an artist and you'd like to participate in this program, artists of all disciplines, musicians, theater, dance, whatever you'd like to do, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have you be a part of this program. So reach out to me, we'll get you on the schedule and you can do whatever you'd like. It's very flexible. So reach out to me and we'll get started in that way too. We're actually booking out a couple weeks, so you have some time to prepare yourself. Now we're ready for Chris. So I'm gonna unmute him so he can jump in and show you all this really cool stuff. Chris, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Maggie. Thank you for having me. We can give people a quick minute to trickle in. But for those of you who don't know me, feel free to check me out on Instagram. It's Necrobomb Icon. You should be able to easily find me. You can see some examples of my work there. As the description here says, voxel artist, but I have been doing art pretty much my entire life. I don't have a camera set up here, so I hope you all don't mind that I'm gonna go ahead and do a slideshow, but this won't be the extent of the presentation. This is just to give a technical background on exactly what a voxel is and how they work, and sort of their footing in the gaming industry here. Again, first off, thank you to the St. Lawrence County Arts Council for inviting me to share one of the things that I love. I've been doing voxels for several years now. Consider making a donation to them. We need to make sure that we keep art in our North Country alive. So a little bit about me for those who don't know who I am. Rather than give you all a copy of my resume, I'll go ahead and keep this part brief, but just to give a little background, I've pretty much been doing art since the day I was born. I believe everyone should be doing their own form of art every day. I have an extensive technical background in 3D application, design, and traditional art. My degree comes from computer science in animation. And today we're going to talk about a very, very specific topic in this industry. Now, I apologize if you all already know what a voxel is, but to put it simply, this here is a voxel. Go back. Can you see my mouse? Does that show up? Anyway.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. A simple way to describe a voxel is to think of it as a single pixel, but it has a volumetric attribute to it. So rather than being flat in 2D, a voxel exists in a 3D environment. In fact, actually, the word voxel is derived from pixel. Vo, indicating the volume, and of course the L referencing the element, in which case is the pixel. So we're gonna go ahead and get some of the technical stuff out of the way here. And then let me just show a quick example of this particular voxel here. I'm pulling up a file. So this is a very common voxel application. It's called Magic of Voxel. And as you can see, here is our single voxel. You have some options to set up an edge or grid. This exists in this space here. Now you can vary the size of this space. You can make it bigger, smaller, and you can also determine for yourself how big you would like this particular voxel to be. A common thought on this currently is one voxel is approximately 1 inch. That allows you to build things to scale. Although voxels are usually thought of as 3D cubes, they can also be rendered as data points. The image here is showing a point cloud model derived from a 3D scan. So each of those, although they're very, very hard to see in this picture because it's highly detailed, represents a voxel, and each of those voxels is going to have its own independent attributes. My personal description of a voxel is it's a singular point in a 3D environment that can be assigned various properties such as volume, color, transparency, emission, specular, refraction, etc. So how that ends up working is I can take this particular little point here and I can make it a different color if I want. I can build next to it. I can add variation, but I can also go into render mode here and I can set specific attributes to this. So if I wanted to make this dark bluish color here emits light, I can turn up the emission level on that. And as you can see, that will start to glow. As your scenes become more complicated, the light will refract accordingly. The default is diffuse here. So basically we're just talking about Minecraft, right? Well, Minecraft probably is one of the most well-known examples of a voxel simulation. However, with one caveat, Minecraft cubes are actually made from polygons, which is a very different form of technology from the rendering perspective here. However, the algorithm used to generate Minecraft worlds is voxel technology. So as you can see, if you look at this here, you can tell it's made up of tiny cubes. What they end up doing in their game engine is converting this into a polygon cube. So you would have one face here, one face on top, you'd have a face on the side and the back and the bottom, etc. With a voxel, each one of these spaces exists independently, including the ones inside of this box. So that's one of the primary differences between a polygon model and a voxel. The polygons are typically defined as a series of points called vertexes, and then a surface is generated between them. You need a minimum of 3 to make a triangle, and the 3D environment can interpolate between those 3 points and build a plane. These can get infinitely complicated, and some 3D models have millions and millions of polygons, giving you highly detailed results. Polygonal 3D models, however, are hollow. So they are not really true to life. There's very, very few things that are actually hollow. Everything has something inside of it typically. A voxel, however, is a solid surface. So rather than a box being a hollow box made of external polygons, a voxel will be a solid surface. Because of this, voxels are actually the most accurate method we have to represent reality. However, if voxels are so powerful, why do voxel video games usually look oversimplified? The simple short answer to that question is because the computer technology for rendering large amounts of voxels is really just not there yet. Current video rendering technology are also focused on polygons, and we can even do like all kinds of incredible things with some of the game engines that are out now. However, they've never really catered to the voxel community. Voxels, however, contain much, much, much more information. For example, in a polygon model, if you poke a hole through a wall, there will be an arbitrary hole in the wall. If something crumbles, it will crumble in the pieces which the artist has initially said it can crumble. With a voxel, since they're solid objects, they can have properties such as gravity as well. So if a wall crumbles, it could potentially crumble differently every time based on the circumstances. Let's take a look at some of the differences here. So if we could imagine, again, each of these voxels being approximately 1 inch, this is 32 by 32 by 32. So that is actually 32,768 individual voxels that would have to be processed by the game engine, as opposed to a polygon, which potentially this could be the same size, but the game engine only has to render a total of 12 polygonal faces. This is a much more efficient for our current technology. But as voxels continue to improve, so will the graphics engines driving them. How about the future of voxels? As you can see, there are many, many, many industries with unthinkable amounts of variations how these can be used. So if you take a look at this design here on the left, they are obviously not using the proportion of one voxel equaling 1 inch. This could be very, very detailed. You could potentially say, hey, one voxel is going to represent one molecule. And then from that point, build onto this. So they're able to get many different types of surfaces and textures within this, including individual blood veins here. Bones, all of this have their own properties as well. And here's another scan. As you can see, the resolution isn't quite as good on this one, but this can be used for all kinds of medical purposes in addition to many other things. This is another example of the direction that voxels will go. As you can see, they're really pushing the limits. This is in fact made of voxels. The voxels in this case obviously are very tiny individually, but as you can see, it can generate moss, different textures, and it can even grow based on algorithms. Most voxel files are saved as in a form of a spreadsheet that's just defining its location in a 3D space. And because of that, developers are able to actually program these spreadsheets to do all kinds of different things and render out beautiful things like this. Real-time lighting. A game engine theoretically should be able to handle this probably within the next few years. This is supposedly a screenshot from taken in real time. Here's another example. As you can see, its uses in architecture, but look at this tree, how detailed it is. If you look here, you can sort of see the separation of the voxels here where it starts to lose a little bit of definition. And then also a tad bit of philosophy related to voxels and some of the things that it makes us think about. I'm just going to go ahead and read this. I took this from a blog earlier today. If anybody wants the source, let me know. Already, point cloud simulations are used to model the collision of galaxies or the expansion of the universe. Imagine if those simulations were really complete. If you could zoom in on an individual planet, it would be as detailed down to the subatomic level as the actual planets are. At that point, what would distinguish it from the reality that we reside? This would make some sense of why Elon Musk, Stephen Hawking, and others have recently voiced their high probability that we already reside in simulation. Our own technology is approaching the capability of rendering large chunks of reality to the same fidelity as the one we reside in. So kind of interesting to think about. That's all I got for my slideshow here, but I figured that there is probably going to be some examples that you all would like to see, give you an opportunity to answer questions. If you can't see my screen, so maybe pop a note in there, but this is just a simple file that we had here. I'm going to go ahead and show off one of my pieces that I've worked on previously. I'm going to talk a little bit about workflow after that. Let's see here. All right. So this is a library made from voxels. As you can see, I have the edge turned on here, so we can kind of see the definition between objects. And you really can get quite a bit of definition out of this type of technology. Even taking into consideration one voxel may be equivalent to approximately 1 inch. So what you're able to do here, let me narrow these down, is you can also build things in modules. For example, if I wanted to make a copy of this ladder right here, I've built that essentially kind of in a separate file. So I can move this, I can edit this, I can take out the background. and I can make copies of it. So this allows for efficient modeling. I can make one part, take for example, the speaker, and I can just copy it. Less for consistency and variation. Now, as you can see, this particular scene here is currently flat shaded. This is the environment that you would typically build something like this in. So how do you get it to look nice? That goes through the render process up here at the top. Again, this software here is called Magic Voxel. You can download it for free. I would encourage everybody to try it out. It's fun. It's entertaining. It can actually become quite addictive. The lighting modes in this are really nice. It has nice gradual shadow areas and the colors. You can change the lighting here. You can add a sun. You can add fog. All kinds of different things that you can do in here. This is one of my newer pieces. I'm going to step back a little bit and sort of show where I came from. When I first started using voxels, this one here was probably one of my first major projects. Now, this is not modular. This was all built in this square here. The limit on this software at the time is this square can only be 126 by 126 by 126. I've since learned that I can modulate most of this stuff, build them into different pieces, put them together, and generate a much bigger scene out of this. But if you could imagine these each being individual pixels, the size of this really would just be 126, which is extremely small. This rendered out is going to kind of give you this look here. I painstakingly did all of this ivy in here by hand. These staircases I did duplicate to get those in place. And you can see I've also set up some little lighting sources here to accent certain areas. Try to go into some detail in things like the wood and just add a little bit of variation so it doesn't look stale. And then even down here in the water, we can set different types of transparencies. And I decided this house has probably been here for a while, so I added a little bit of muck in there. If I'm going too fast for anybody, please let me know. One thing to take into consideration is voxel art is typically viewed from all angles. Since I was working within the restrictions of the size of this, I didn't have a way to facilitate the back of this. However, a common way that you would see this displayed in a game would probably be from an isometric perspective. And this program is going to give me the option to do that down here. So rather than rendering this out in perspective, I can get a nice isometric view, which is appropriate in a lot of cases for a game engine or anything that's a sort of bird's eye view top down. From here, if I was making a static image, I could just export and then modify it. I could cut out the background, or I could render it without a background, and then that could be placed anywhere. This is the second, probably very time-consuming piece that I did here. And as you can see, I am also squeezing this within a 126. This probably took me maybe 4 or 5 hours. And as you can see, there's a lot of detail going on here, but I was able to copy and paste and mirror images to the other side, which really streamed and downsize that workload on here. You have options also to render this out in different ways, which is kind of interesting to see. So if I decided I wanted to render this out to look like a set of Legos, I can do this. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see it.
That is so cool.
It gives you some other options as well. The cube is typically what you would see. This is a marching cubes. As you can see, the way that it transitions between the voxels here starts to smooth it out a little bit and doesn't give you the rigid square. I don't care too much for this because in this case, I'm doing something architectural And this type of shape typically isn't going to exist in a form like this, but it does kind of add some interesting nuances to it. If you take a look at it scaled from back here, you can see these areas have blended together a little bit and given a more organic look as opposed to like the strict hard lines of a cube. You can render them out as spheres, which I can't imagine what the use of this is in this particular application, but kind of interesting to see. You could do another method called clay, which is similar to the marching cubes. You can also do cylinders. So a few options are available. As you can imagine, the cube and the Lego are probably the most popular. From here, I started to learn a little bit more about how this technology works and how this software works. And I eventually came up with this. This is also one of my original pieces. It's sort of like a little workshop. I'll show you what it looks like in model mode. And as you can see in this case, I've set some areas to glow, added some variations in here. It's supposed to be just sort of like a rundown. Maybe a wizard lives in here or some sort of blacksmith. Again, the restriction of the 126, but what I've learned is I can take this piece here and this piece here and this piece here, and I can break them all out into individual files and I can reuse them, which will allow me to use this particular style to add a gigantic amount of variation. So if I needed to make a whole set of buildings in this style, I can modulate this and set them up in different ways, but also give them a consistent look. For example, if you take a look at my newer format on how I've started to do this, you can see I'm getting a lot more variation now, and I've built these parts and copy pasted them and put them together in various ways. I'm sort of just gradually growing in size. You got just a little hovel here, a little house, workshop, something maybe like a little town meeting hall or something. A big, maybe some sort of business or a mansion of some sort. This particular piece here is still a work in progress. I'll click render on this real quick so you guys can check out kind of the workflow on how this works. I'm gonna just move my sun angle here. I'm doing that. They can each be manipulated individually. So if I wanted this particular tower here to have its own certain attributes, I could do that. Since I've basically copy pasted it, it becomes its own instance. Now, because of this offers all kinds of variety in the way that we can put things together. It makes things more interesting. So if this were to be implemented into some sort of gaming environment, it could potentially, each village might have a variation of this, or maybe one village is all ran down and it has just buildings structured like this. This is a police scanner. I'm sure most of you know what this is. And this particular piece I ended up building in two parts because the antenna was too tall. But if you want to get a close look on how this is put together, the nice thing about voxels, if you're doing a hard surface like this, it can give you a nice, good, clean, realistic look. As you can see down here, I've got sort of a mirror quality on this ground plane to get a little bit of reflection going on. And you also have options to play around with different render settings to change the quality of what it's going to look like. Here is one that I'm currently working on. Some of you may have come across this little piece here from my Instagram account. But as you can see, I am continuing to build onto this here. And eventually this will be sort of like a living room here. I'll probably have a kitchen, maybe a bedroom up here. And then I'll build the outside of this. Here's model mode on this one. As you can see, I've got all kinds of different parts put together in here. In this room here, I've got this built as a separate model so I can reuse the parts from this. Same with this. You can see here and this are very similar because I just took this, copied it, made a variation of it here.
Chris,
Hi.
is this what they use on like HGTV when they do renderings of like new layouts and they knock down walls and stuff? Is this the kind of software they use?
I would say it's probably similar. They're most likely using a Polygon-based software. There are lots and lots of different softwares out now that can do this type of thing, and some are built specifically for architecture, and some are also built specifically for games. Some are built specifically for all kinds of different things. So most likely what they're doing is using an application such as maybe Blender or Maya, and maybe in some cases 3D Studio Max.
Cool.
The idea is going to be the same though. This could be exported and brought into any other software and manipulated and changed and animated, and all kinds of different things could be done to this. You can change the lighting. It could be pulled into the Unity game engine or even UDK, which is another engine. So there are pretty much an infinite number of possibilities. And one of the neat things, if I were to put this into a game, I could potentially, in this little stairway here, this little space, I could potentially make a little room that you can't access unless you bust out this wall. And then since voxels exist as a solid form, the wall would break according to where you hit it, and then the things on the inside would be affected accordingly, including the light. So if you popped a whole bunch of holes in this wall, you would be able to see the light through on the other side if you were inside of this. Pretty cool. And that's one of the neat things about voxels is just its ability to be highly accurate. So if I had built this where each voxel is a 1/4 inch, obviously the model would be much bigger, but it would also be much more accurate. I might have, okay, and this is one that I've been sort of working on and off. And then after this, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. Okay, so this is just a layout of a city. And essentially what I've done here is I built this singular image here. Let me do that. Okay, so just sort of like a little building here. And I made sure to make each side a variant so that I could just copy paste this and turn it a little bit just to give me some variety. Now, if I were to render this out, you can see some of these areas are blue. Back up a little bit here. But when they render out, there's pinkish sort of like cyberpunk look. And the reason for that is I have put the emissive glowing material behind a glass structure, and that lets me get kind of this nice little shadow areas in here. The light isn't as strong. That glass filter over top of it mutes that out. Give it kind of like a bigger view here. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'll probably just continue to build a few of these buildings, make some variations, and render it out and call it a day. But if y'all have ideas, I'd love to hear them. Then the backside, as you can see here, I can also do things like lift this up so that from the camera it looks taller. So there's all kinds of little tricks that you can do in this. Now, one of the downsides to the magical voxel software, if I were to click and make a new file here, and let's say I wanted to make something at an angle. So if I were to try to do, well, I better do this, hold on. Something organic like this, it's never going to lose this blockiness with this particular software because my maximum resolution on this screen, in this case, is 40 by 40. So it doesn't work as good for organic forms because I might want to have something hanging off this, for example, or maybe I want to have a sign hanging out the front of a building, but the sign is at an angle. If I wanted to make a sign at an angle, it would have to look like this, and that's going to be atrocious to model. So everything has to be confined to this grid here. However, this voxel technology actually has improved. There's another software application that I spend most of my time using. I'm going to show you guys some of the new stuff that I've been working on. Maybe it'll get somebody into voxels. We're always looking for more artists. They actually can't hire them quick enough. The voxel community currently is very small. If you take a look at this software here, this is called VoxEdit. This is basically, it's kind of like a little goblin type character that I've made here. And one of the neat things about this is it allows me actually to put things in at an angle like this. So I am no longer restricted to building things within inside the dimensions of this cube. The other kind of neat thing, as you are using this software and you're pulling your parts of your model into this application, the way that you build them is you build these parts individually. And as you can see, these are all the little parts that make up this combined image here. So if I wanted to make a change to this head, for example, I can use my edit button here, which will open up the edit mode and you can view just the head. So now I can make changes to this. I can move it around. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. And then by going back to the animator, it's going to automatically implement those changes to whatever I've made and apply it to this model. The other kind of interesting thing that this does is as you are importing those parts, it's going to set up a hierarchy. So the hip is going to be the core here. Everything's going to be attached to the hip. So the chest area, and then attached to the chest area is going to be the head, etc. This has to be put together in a logical way. If it's not, you're going to have problems when it comes to animation, which is also another advantage of this software here. These can be animated. It can do, let's see here, it can talk. It can do like a little hello. It can eat. This looks kind of dangerous with this weapon there. It can run away. It can just sort of stand idle. There's a few more. It can run. It can land from a jump, of course. It can die, poor thing. It can jump. It can like knock on a door, interact with something, pick something up, whatever the case might be. And it can taunt. Probably my favorite out of these would be the fall animation. Just because it's kind of a nice little image here, and it's a good way to display the model. So I can also build variations of this. For example, in this particular case, I have another one of these. Let me stop this animation here. All right. Its default animation is dead, sorry. Let's see if he'll walk. So essentially what I've done here is just I've changed up the colors. I've removed the weapon that it had, or the tool of whatever sort it had, and the helmet that it had, and made a quick variation of the original model. This allows for great variety in game development and streams the process for the artist down drastically. If I had to build this from scratch every time, it would be terrifying. It would probably take forever. Since these parts are reusable, it really allows a lot of flexibility. Let me show you guys another example if you like. Let's see. This one doesn't have an animation, but you can see the advantage of being able to set things at an angle here is expressed quite a bit in this model here. So these, I can set them all up, and then I can angle them accordingly, put them all in the rig, which is the hierarchy that I was referring to. I can hang things now. I can make all of these different by moving these around. I can recolor any of these. And obviously it's existing from all angles here. So try to add a variety of things. I can put a carpet under it, which I think just sort of accents the model here. This will eventually be used in a software application. If you guys want to check out my current published voxel arts, you can find me on the sandbox.game and search for Necrobomicon. I've probably got maybe over 40, between 40 and 50 published models, and I'll have more coming out soon. This is a project that's under development right now, so keep your eyes open. They have quite a process that they're going through right now, so it's also kind of neat to see software unfold. This particular application, Box Edit, you can get for free. It's a download off their website. However, their game engine is currently not available to the general public. They're hoping to roll it out hopefully within the next week or so. And as you can see here, this is just a duplicate of this. Yep.
How do you get to your Sandbox site?
Here, let me get the page up so you can see what it looks like.
Yeah, and I can share it so people can go on. I can share it onto the comments so people can go on and see it.
Let me do this. We just found out yesterday that we're going to end up having to reload all of our models. So if you see some on there that are a little wonky, it's because they haven't been rendered properly. Let me get this over to you real quick, Meg.
Awesome.
Okay, this will go to my specific page here on the sandbox. Let me move that. And this is essentially a marketplace. If you could imagine this sort of being like a combination of Minecraft and maybe Roblox, where people can come in and they can make their own applications and their own games, and they can purchase these assets. Each of these, like here's a decayed well that I've done. It'll display in 3D, so you can check it out. It looks somewhat complicated, but if you want to check out my workflow on how I put this together, really all I've done here is made very few pieces and then just sort of put them together. So let me grab the model so you can check it out.
And we've got a question. What's your favorite thing you've built on the software so far?
I would say maybe the spice rack that I was just showing you guys. I really like that one. I don't know if I have a favorite. That's a good question. Let me get through this little part and then I'll come back to it. That'll give me a little bit of time to think. Okay, so here are the parts that I've put together. So there are literally just 8 of them. Out of those 8, 4 of them are just defining this grass here. This is all set up in a rig, so if I want to move a particular piece, it will move the rest of it accordingly. And that just allows me to get some variation in there. And the rest of this really is just this brick, 2 different variations of a plank and a post. And I've just spaced them all out in here. You can see all of these can be moved individually. Something like this probably would take me, I'd say, around an hour. I can also reuse these parts for various models. I would say probably right now my current favorite is actually this goblin. I just did him the other night, and I think I pretty much nailed it. The way that this works, I'm gonna go back to my viewer here and just grab another random model that I've done. These you won't see on that link there. It's loading. It takes a minute. There's several animations linked to this model. This software is in beta, so it's not exactly stable as well. I've had it crash on me a lot of times. It's drastically improved over time though. So I'm happy that that's happened for sure. I'm going to do just the fall animation here. And this is, as you can see, an Oompa Loompa. This is really just practice, but the way that this is put together is you have a base model that you can build around, which is super helpful, especially in the development pipeline. Having something that you can work with that comes already animated saves weeks worth of work. They have all kinds of different types of models that you can pick from. They have dinosaurs, they have fish, they have humans, they have dogs. If you check out the website, you'll see kind of a trailer of their goals and what they're doing. Feel free to browse through that at any point. Let me know if there's questions. And this one here might be one of my favorites as well, just because it's simple, and I think it turned out just good enough to sort of nail down the concept of what an Oompa Loompa is. Now, this has many, many more parts, as you can see. Each of these arms is an individual model. The head, of course, shoes, the legs, etc. I think I can show you guys one more. I did a series of birds as well. You will see those if you find that link. And this is a scarlet macaw. You're limited with what you can use as far as space goes. So in some cases, the scarlet macaw is a little bit bigger than some birds, but you're still sort of restricted to the general size and shape of birds, because typically these types of things are going to be background images. This should load up now. It's trying really hard. Sorry for the lag. All right, so we can watch it fly. And as you can see, there's only really so much resolution I'm able to attain within their parameters, but that's also one of the things that kind of makes it entertaining. These folks here are also converting to polygons, so you do have to be mindful of your poly count as you're going through. This is a very simplified form. It has 319 faces. So something like this, there might be, I don't know, 50 or 60 of them throughout their metaverse there. They'll come in limited quantities. But if you could imagine this along with 50 other birds and thousands of them, the 319 polys per ends up adding up pretty quick. This also has the option of eating. It can glide. It can do all kinds of different things. As you can see, this, you could imagine just sort of seeing this drift over your screen. I've currently probably done around maybe between 50 and 60 models, maybe more, for the Sandbox universe. And I'm just going to keep doing as many as I can. I'm part of the creator fund, which essentially they pay you to build models. And then when they sell in the market, they're also going to throw you a bone for that as well. So it should be interesting to watch the whole thing unfold. If you check out sort of their area on the website where their partners are, you'll see a very, very elaborate list of all kinds of different companies that they're working with. Feel free to browse through their site and check out some of the things that are available. Also, again, a quick note, that site is going to be being rebuilt hopefully within the next week. So some of that content may not be available at that time, but I'm going to make sure to keep all my stuff on there. So keep your eyes there. That link might change, by the way. So if you just want to bookmark the Sandbox, or just look me up on Instagram. I'd like to build my Instagram account a little bit more. So tell your friends or whatever you need to do. I would appreciate that.
What's your handle?
It's going to be necrobamacon.com, or I'm sorry, necrobamacon. Let me type it on here for you. So you want me to just send it to you, Mag?
Yeah, that would be awesome. And
Okay.
I'll share it too.
Where'd you go? Hold on. There you go. You can probably find. I sent it to you on Facebook. Sorry.
That's okay. All this technology.
Yeah. You can probably find me by searching by my name as well. And that's pretty much all I got. I'll give you guys a quick screenshot of some of the other characters that I've done. I'm not going to be able to open all of them. That would take quite a while, but as you can see, I've got quite a collection here. I'll zoom in on them. Some of these I might run into some copyright issues, but I think I might be able to get away with like the Bilbo Baggins by just naming him something different, or even the Elvis. Some of these, I have a Doyle here. C-3PO, but I just sort of went with Alien Engineer and Ewok here. All kinds of different things that I've just sort of put together. Some of these I've put together just for my own sake, and some of these will be put into the Sandbox metaverse. You can see I've got some Smurfs here. I don't think they're going to let me upload these. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't see any questions on Facebook message right now, but did Felicia want to ask you any questions through the Zoom call?
I talked to her, and yeah, she said I've inadvertently answered her questions.
Perfect. All right, just 1 second. I'll see if we have any questions through Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see anything right this second, and that's okay. But so we'll have this video up on our Facebook, and we'll put it on our YouTube later too. So if anybody has any questions, they can ask us at that time. But so I think that we're good to go at this point. Thank you so much, Chris, for all your time and effort with this whole presentation. It's been so cool to see this totally new art form that I've never seen myself. So I think that there'll be a number of people who haven't seen this kind of thing before in the flesh, if you were, not the flesh at all, actually. Yeah,
well, thank you for having me. And obviously, thank you to the St. Lawrence County Arts Council. Again, make a donation. We need to make sure that we can keep art alive. Art is really the thing that drives us to where we are. Without it, we wouldn't have packaging, we wouldn't have things to manufacture, we wouldn't have beautiful structures. So it's a part of our everyday life. Everyone has their own form of art. You should do that every day.
Thank you, Chris. You're the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This has been Art for Art's Sake with the St. Lawrence County Arts Council and Chris Weller. Join us tomorrow for some poetry, and I hope you all have a great day.